This is the basic of organic farming. So organic farming is not just about crops and yield, but it also supports the overall ecosystem in general. These are the general principles of organic farming, where we say we don't use agrochemicals, no GMOs, that is genetically modified seeds or organisms, no synthetic fertilizers. We use only organic fertilizers. We reduce the use of non-renewable sources. We use local resources available, which means that we do not have to look for resources that are not available within the nature, within that particular environment. So we use the materials that are locally available, resources that are locally available to the best of their capability to sustain farming. Water consumption is reduced over a period of time when you continue doing this. The water holding capacity of the soil improves when you go through organic farming. The organic matter in the soil gets enriched when you go through organic farming methodologies. The larger flora and fauna and the microbiological diversity is maintained when we follow this organic farming practices. Soil erosion and soil loss is reduced. Energy use comes down. And one of the organic farming practices is called a crop rotation, where you do not look for one particular crop to sustain your farming methodology, but you keep changing your crops. So we will see all these things in detail in this presentation of ours today. Why is organic farming important? Organic farming is important because it is not about the immediate or short-term yield, but it also looks at the long-term effect that the agriculture has on the ecosystem. So can someone say what you mean by this? Yes, please. Anyone?
Yeah, I like to share.
Yes.
To my understanding, it looks like the land or the place where you grow the crop should be maintained in such a way that it is able to grow the crop in the long run. For years together, it is able to give you good yield. So to ensure that.
Right. Anybody else? One of the major concerns when you go through the conventional method of farming, where you use synthetic fertilizer, is that over a period of time, what happens is your soil loses its nutrient value and its capacity to support farming over a period of time. So eventually, initially you might have good yield, but over the years, your yield capacity will come down. That is one. The second problem that will happen is, despite you using synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, resistant variants of pests and variants of insects will come, and so the your chemical content will become harsher, whereas the pests will also become more resistant to the kind of fertilizers that you use. So eventually, over a period of time, you will not be able to control your pests that attack your crops. So how did organic farming start? Organic farming has been the natural way of farming over the years. So if you see, only until the mid 19th century, there was nothing called as synthetic or synthetic fertilizers or anything that was there. So early humans did farming only through organic methodology, or they had their farming only based on the natural principles. However, during the mid 19th century, what happened was artificial fertilizers started coming up. Early fertilizers were cheap, they were powerful, they were easy to transport in bulk, and so people started taking up to them so easily. Advances have occurred in the chemical pesticides industry during the 1940s. I think in India also during the 1960s, we with the MS Swaminathan Research Foundation, we went through what is called the Green Revolution in India. And as part of this Green Revolution, what happened was the number of fertilizers that started being used in our farming practices increased. Uh, the bowl of food in India is predominantly the Punjab and that medieval belt in India. And if you see that there, people use fertilizers so much, and amongst the fertilizer, what happens is after they use those fertilizers, even the tubs that the fertilizers come in are used for household activities. Eventually, what happened was today we have a train running from Punjab to Rajasthan that's called the cancer train because it purely caters to taking people from Punjab to the cancer institute that is there in Rajasthan. So to that extent, our green revolution has impacted our lifestyles, impacted our lives, and fertilizers and all these chemicals and pesticides are a major contributing factor to cancer today. Otherwise, if smoking and drinks were the only issues that were that contributed to cancer, how would young children get cancer? So today we are going through a very difficult phase, and people are recognizing and realizing the dangers of having pesticides and fertilizers in their food. And so a lot of people are consciously moving towards organic food, and this is one such effort. Other long-term side effects of pesticides would be soil compaction. What we mean by soil compaction is over the years, when you start using constant pesticides and fertilizers, the pores between the soil will start disappearing, which means that your soil will lose those pores where it holds those nutrients, the air and all that, and it becomes compacted. This will lead to soil erosion because when there is a heavy rainfall, the soil gets eroded and moves out because it does not have a holding power. Decline in overall soil fertility. So over the years, what happens is soil loses its capability to produce or yield good, give good yield over the years. Plus, of course, the health concern of toxins, which we talked about in terms of cancer and other lifestyle diseases that we face today. Factors that support or lead to organic farming is increasing environmental awareness that has transformed today what organic farming is all about. Earlier, organic farming was supply driven, but now with people realizing the adverse effects of having so many chemicals in their food and all that, people have started demanding and asking for organic food material. So now organic farming is more demand driven, and because it is demand driven, it the pricing is high. However, the government is also giving certain subsidies to attract farmers to get into more of such organic farming methodologies. In developing countries like India and other places, there are a lot of traditional methods that are being used in terms of farming. However, people do not know how to get it certified. And so, even though there are, India is one of the largest organic farming countries, but still, that knowledge of getting it certified through a proper certifying agency is still not available, and people are not aware of the overall processes. So the more people do this, it will be much more easier to certify our organic practices. Any questions or anything so far, or can I continue? Am I being understood by everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
You can continue.
I can continue? Okay, thanks.
Yes. Ma'am, we'll do the question and answers towards the end. We've kept a part for that.
Okay.
So, together we'll ask. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, thank you. However, you can stop me wherever you need more details or clarification that's required.
Yes, absolutely, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
So transition to organic farming, this is a very important thing that people need to think about. Normal from your conventional organic practices, when people transition, the transition process takes anywhere between 3 to 5 years, the least being 3 years at least. The soil and the ecosystem needs that time to adapt from the chemical process to the transitioning period to the organic practice. And this period that you use is normally going to be a difficult phase, because the produce that you get, you can neither call them as conventional produce, nor can you call them as organic produce. So there will be cash flow issues. People with better cash flows can invest, can give these produce to within their community of friends, ask them to start experiencing what it is to have organic produce. Prices will not be, you will not be able to command a premium to the produce that you get during these 3 years. However, after 3 years, you can get your produce to be certified as organic, and from then you can start commanding a premium to your products. Normally, farmers choose to transition from the traditional conventional method to organic farming method in phases, which means that, if you have 5-6 acres of land, you do first in 1 acre, and then you move to the next parcel of land, and then you do it to the next parcel, so that, you have a balance of one organic produce. And while you have one land that is being converted into an organic produce, you still have other parcels of land that will help you continue to give you conventional produce and meet with your cash flow issues and problems. So that is one reason why farmers use this methodology. However, what is not acceptable is, in the same parcel of land that you are trying to convert to organic, you cannot use pesticides or fertilizer and say that, parallelly you will do both, which is not possible. The moment you start using pesticide or fertilizer, it becomes a conventional method. It is no more an organic produce. Now we will look at the various components of organic farming. The first is the kind of manure that you used for the land. One of the key manure that you can look at is the vermicompost. Vermicompost is it's a species of red wrigglers and then the white worms and all these things. They are used on a bed of materials on which, a mixture of all your decomposing vegetables, food waste, all these go, and on top of this, these worms are introduced, and they naturally decompose to form a manure that is very rich in nutrients, particularly nitrogen and potash, which is the key component that is required for crops to grow healthily. The second part is there is another manure called green leaf manure. These are any leaves that fall on the ground from trees that can be collected, and these are all used to they are all used as part of this vermicompost pit. They are used into the added to the vermicompost pit to decompose, and they will naturally add to more increasing your natural manure. However, there is another benefit to these green manure. What they do is, when you have leaves that are spread on your land, what happens is, even when it rains, the rain does not splatter directly onto the ground, which means that it helps avoid soil erosion. Because the leaves are covering the soil does not splatter and gets eroded, whereas through the leaves, water drips onto the land, keep maintaining moisture on the land. The third key component when it comes to organic farming is crop rotation. This is a very standard practice even in conventional methodology. What they do is, once if you grow cereals or paddy and grains, what happens is, the next rotation crop that is grown after this is normally a leguminous plant like groundnut or alfalfa and all these things. So they help in adding key nutrients. The roots, they have legume nodes. The leguminous plants have legume nodes. So what they do is, in these legume nodes, they attract and retain nitrogen. After harvesting, what happens is these leaf nodes release this nitrogen into the soil, making the soil rich. So this helps in improving this, the life of the soil, the nutrient quality of the soil. Also, when you rotate crops, what happens is they help in pest control, because normally when you have the same crop continuously in a field, what happens is pests keep the pests keep attacking your crops. However, when you keep rotating your crops, what happens is there might be a certain kind of pests that attack a cereal or a paddy field. However, the same pest will not attack your leguminous plants. And the same pest might not be the ones that attack your vegetable crops. So when you keep rotating crops, what happens? The pests will not stay in your field for long because it confuses them over a period of time. That is another way. Also, another way of contributing crop rotation. Also, what they do is it contributes to the soil health, because paddy and all, they take a lot of nutrients like nitrogen and potash from the soil, whereas your legumes contribute to this. Your vegetables contribute something else to the soil, and they take different kinds of nutrients. So every crop adds some nutrient to the soil and takes something else. So when you keep rotating, what happens is one plant contributes certain nutrients which is required for the next plant, next crop. That crop contributes something else to the soil which is required for the next crop. Like this, when you keep rotating, the soil stays healthy for a long time, and it supports a different variety of crops. Like I was saying, vegetables are row crops. They are more taxing to the soil. They have low biomass and they have shallow roots, so they contribute low residue to the surrounding soil, which means that they have limited effect on the structure of the soil. So all this, because of this, what happens when rain falls, the soil erosion happens easily when you have a vegetable crop. When you rotate that with leguminous crops, what happens is it enriches the soil, giving back to the soil what your vegetable crops have taken away from it. So leguminous crops fixes nitrogen into the soil for nitrogen demanding crops. So legumes are like groundnut, alfalfa, clover. All these are such crops that can be rotated. Likewise, cereals and grasses are frequent cover crops because they give many advantages to the soil. They have very dense and far-reaching roots, which give the soil greater biomass. And what they do is they also help in competing with the natural weeds that grow in the soil, thereby over a period of time, these crops will help avoid the growth of weed in your soil naturally. Components of organic farming, there is something called as biological management. Biological management is what I spoke about, introducing natural predators to your pests and diseases causing organisms. So every pest or every organism has a natural enemy, which can be in the form of some pests that attack your crops. Sunflower seeds is one of the key component that dispels all these pests. So you can introduce a sunflower crop which will get rid of some of your common pests or small microorganisms. So like this, if you keep crop rotation and introducing these normal natural enemies to the pests will also help in creating a good natural biodiversity. Another key component of organic farming is animal husbandry. Can anyone tell me how? Let us make this more interactive.
Yeah, I think animals, a lot of animals are used in farming. So it is good to use, for example, the animals have to be fed. So whatever is extra yield that you have, you feed the animals, and animals' dung can be reused. That's one thing. And
Right.
animal itself directly can be used in the farming process, like sowing the seeds. Exactly. So.
Correct. So the overall animal husbandry is all that you have understood. You have already given me the answers to what I'm going to show now. So these are the benefits of having animals, because as he said, animals help in your overall process of farming. The dung of the animals, particularly goat and cow, goat dung and cow dung are extremely rich with nutrients, and they can be used as manure. Animals also help in your watering of the plants. Animals help in improving the soil through their manure. Animals can be led to feed on the weeds there. After a crop is harvested, they can feed on the weeds there. So naturally, they help in de-weeding of your land. They can be used in your soil in planting of seeds and all these things. So overall, animals are a part of your overall uh, uh, farming practice. Biofertilizers, these are microorganisms that are introduced as part of manure to organic farming. So what happens is some of the microorganisms are not efficient on their own when they are introduced into the they are naturally available, but they are not so efficient. So what we do is they are cultured in small batches and then introduced into the soil. And so what they do when they are cultured and in batches and they are introduced, they start their activities much more faster instead of waiting for it to naturally happen over a longer period of time. The last is manure. Manures are plants and animal wastes that are used as sources of nutrients for the plants. They release nutrients to the soil, making it, and through decomposition, making the soil rich. Like animal feces, green manure, vermicompost, these are all types of manures that we use. Manures contribute to the fertility of the soil by adding organic matter. Apart from cow dung, cow urine is also used as a manure for the farming practice. Likewise, your urad dal. Urad dal is powdered, and along with that, good is used. Good and urad dal are powdered, and they are mixed with this cow dung and cow urine, and they are sprayed in the farmlands. This is another manure that we use. What this will do is, this combination of good and urad dal will help improve the growth of worms and it will augment your vermicompost process naturally. And they will add more nutrients to the soil and bring in the growth of microorganisms. They will create a conducive environment for the microorganisms to grow within the soil, thereby enriching the soil for your crops. So these are some methods that we use for manuring the soil. So in short, organic farming is not just about crops, it's about natural crops that supports the overall biosystem. Any questions now? I think we can go.
Yes.
One day.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am, for the amazing session. It was very enlightening for all of us, and I'm sure the participants would also agree to it. There are a few questions, ma'am, which I have got.
Okay.
So the first question is where to buy certified organic vegetables in Bangalore?
I think there are shops that has, see, organic certification in India is given by APEDA, which is called Agricultural and Processed Food Products Export Development Authority. It is a, it comes under the Ministry of Agriculture and part of the Government of India ministries. They certify through various certifying agencies, and we will have to look for such certificates. Any organic store, if you ask for the certification, they will show you.
Okay. Ma'am, the next question is, would like to know how to start farming in and around Bangalore. Is it profitable?
See, there are people these days who are even farming in their terraces, terrace farming is prevalent these days, A lot of people, it's not necessary that you need to have a large parcel of land. You can do farming in so many methods. There are people who do terrace farming, people who do vertical farming where, small, in a vertical this thing, setup, you can have various, you see it under various flyovers and all. That is an example of vertical farming where you can grow plants, vegetables, even, so many things within your homes.
Right. Ma'am, the next question is saying that can crop rotation be done at your home garden?
Yes, very much possible.
Okay. The next question is related to the previous question. Are there any agents for getting organic certifications? Do you know of any?
Yes, there are multiple agents. I can share a list with you if you can share it with all your.
With the participants.
Yes, you can. I will
Yes,
share a complete list of agencies that will do organic certification.
Right. Another question is organic farming under the CSR? Basically, does it form part of the corporate social responsibility by companies?
Yes, it can. It is part of the CSR. There are companies who participate in this as part of their CSR initiatives.
Okay. Another question, ma'am, similar to the previous one. How to start organic farming in a small space?
See, it depends on what you want to grow. You can grow vegetables, you can grow fruits, you can grow flowers. So even if you have a small space, in my house, I have a very small space, but within that space, I have grown vegetables, different kinds of vegetables at home. So all that is possible.
Right. Another question, ma'am. Does organic farming require huge budgets?
Not necessarily. Everything in your kitchen waste can become a manure, your onion peels, your vegetable waste, your fruit waste, your fruit peels, even all these things contribute to organic farming. Instead of dumping them or throwing them away, they can all be used as manure in the pots that we have, and they will naturally decompose. You can introduce a few of these vermicompost, worms, white worms and red worms. They will naturally decompose these food waste that are there in the pots, and you can still grow. You can grow tomatoes, green chilies, peas, brinjals. All these things can be grown at home.
Right. And we have 3 more questions.
Yes.
I'll quickly ask, is government doing enough to promote organic farming?
Yes, government is doing a lot to promote organic farming. See, the simplest way of organic farming at home, take a small bowl and, some soil, add some soil, scatter a few dhania seeds on it. You will have dhania in a few days.
Okay.
You can grow them at home. Likewise, right. Methi leaves, you will grow methi. Methi seeds in another thing, you will grow methi. So these are all small things that you can grow at home. Curry leaves can be grown. All these things that you can just pluck them from your pot and you can cook at home.
Right.
You can grow greens at home.
Right. Ma'am, there are too many questions coming in.
Yes.
How long do crops take to harvest using organic farming?
the crop takes similar time. However, what happens when you do organic farming is your yield might not be the same as your regular this thing. So if in a conventional method, if you grow per acre 20 bags of paddy, you will probably grow 12 to 13, 14 bags of paddy through organic farming.
Okay. Ma'am, one interesting question. Now, in fashion, organic cotton is used and the same is certified by agencies. But then the same fabric is dyed and printed with chemicals. So then how does it remain organic or no? Is it
No,
not
it does
organic?
not. It does not.
It does not.
The cotton
Okay.
may be organic, but the dye is not organic.
Dye is not organic. Okay. How much premium we should pay for organic farming?
See, organic farming, as I told you, the yield comes down. So today it is demand driven. So because it is demand driven, what happens is the person who grows is the one who sets the price for the organic produce.
Right.
While paddy and all has a certain base price, vegetables and all, the price rates varies from on a daily basis, on a seasonal basis. So it's very much on a up and down this thing.
Right. And ma'am, last but not the least, a lot of people are asking, if you how to do organic farming at home. So do you provide courses for the same to people?
We can support if people are interested. Why not?
Right. Right. Okay. Okay. I think we are done with the question and answers round.
Okay.
I would now request our president, Mr.
One more question.
I think there's just one last question. I will
Yes,
quickly
please.
take it up.
Yes.
Yeah. What is the impact of climatic conditions on organic farming?
So I can give you actually a live example of what happened to our own crop when we last year during rains. What happened? It was there were sudden showers almost during the harvest time. What happened was a lot of conventional crops couldn't stand straight. They fell down and because and they got submerged in the water. Crop submerging in the water at the time of harvest, it's a total waste, But what happened in our farm was
Right.
not a single paddy bent down. It stood straight. And we had a good harvest. Despite heavy showers, we had very good harvest.
Oh, that's great. So you must have done something to keep it
Yes.
straight.
No.
Okay.
It naturally stays
Naturally.
that way because it has that strength to stay that way. But what happens is after harvest, because of crops that are grown with pesticides and everything, the rice grains, what will happen when you give it for polishing in rice mills? This is the only thing a lot of people might be worried about. When you polish rice, organic rice tends to break easily. Whereas, pesticide rice might not break. So your breakage is more with, because it's not used to, your organic rice is not has the same kind of density as your conventional method grown rice. So that is one thing that we will have to deal with, which is why normally we go for what we call the hand pounding method for organic rice, which will give you a brown color tinge to the rice, whereas your polished rice will be white.
Right. Okay. Understood. Thank you, ma'am. Over to our president, Mr. Lakshmipat Maluji. He's there. He's graced us with his presence in the session. Mr. Malu, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dishaji. Before I give my introduction of TPF, I have just a question for Meenakshi. Question related to organic. See, I've heard from a lot of my friends, those are into this farming, that see, they have done this, they have land and they have done regular farming for several years, and land has been eroded because of all these pesticides. And they find it very hard to put organic stuff there, and it is not as productive as, let's say, land without any pesticides. So how do we overcome that? I think that was one of the questions which my friends have asked that I should ask to you, so we get some insight of how do we improve that.
Okay, I think that was one of my first few slides. I think you weren't there. So the natural process from a conventional method to an organic farming, it takes 3 years. 3 years will be an investment period. You might not get good results or yield, and you will not get certification for those first 3 years when you move from a conventional method to an organic farming practice. So what happens is when during those 3 years, you might have to continue your farming practice, but you will have to give the produce to your own community. You might not be able to claim, get a premium for your pricing. You might not get a certification and all that, but stay with it for 3 years, and after 3 years, your soil will naturally become rich. So many people, what they do is they don't do it immediately for a whole parcel of land. So they do it in phases, first 1 acre, and then they'll do it for the next acre. While they will, this 1 acre will be there, will take 3 years time. They will continue with the normal farming practice for the rest of the parcel of land. Once this becomes organic, then they will take the process to the next parcel of land. But in the same parcel of land, you cannot do both kind of farming. If you are going for organic, you have to wait for 3 years for the soil to naturally become rich. It will take time.
Thank you. Okay. So before I even speak about TPF, a little bit about Meenakshi. I think there was already introduction done earlier. I was not there, a little late during the call. So beyond Meenakshi's knowledge of organic and what she's done, I think her life story itself is very inspiring, at least for me, and I think it is interesting. I have very rarely seen a woman who is in leadership position in a corporate company and then also doing organic farming on her own, not as out of hobby, but as a part of a business. So, and also if you want to learn boldness at work, I think people need to learn more from Meenakshi about how do you remain bold in the work. I think there are numerous examples. So Dishaji, next session, whenever she can give to Meenakshi, we need to understand how do you be bold at work, specifically for women.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
And Meenakshi is a perfect embodiment for that. And she has numerous, her own life stories, which is interesting. So I am more interested in that than organic, I'm telling you. She's very inspiring.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Thank you so much.
And a lot of people, I don't know, they were asking about Bangalore. Meenakshi is in Chennai.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I think people assumed that, yeah.
She's in Chennai, not in Bangalore. But she did not drop any answer question, did not drop any questions. She will still give answer for Bangalore also. Nice.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Meenakshi. A short introduction about TPF. Those who don't know, a lot of people already know, but maybe some of the people who don't know what TPF is. So TPF stands for Therapanth Professional Forum. And this is essentially, we belong to a Jain community called Therapanth, which is one of the sect within the Jain community. And Therapanth Professional stands for basically it's a group of all Therapanthi Jain professionals. And when I say professional, it includes engineers, doctors, MBAs, CAs, all of them. They're all brought into one umbrella in this organization. And the primary motto of this organization is three. First is focus on education. Now, education, people are not privileged enough. How do we help them and support them in their education right from their primary school, high school, and even in the graduation and post-graduation. So that's one motto. Second, and also we felicitate people who are academically brilliant in terms of getting 85, 90% at 10th, 12th in graduation. So we felicitate them every year in the pious presence of our Gurudev, Acharya Sri Mahasamanji. That's another part. So we encourage people to get more educated, people more knowledgeable, and be specific areas of expert. And second, one is education. Second is healthcare. So healthcare, there are multiple things what we do, but the permanent project which runs across, it's a medical vein. It's a big bus which goes into remote areas, operating for most likely underprivileged people, those who don't get access to the healthcare. We do that. That's one thing. And second is we do a temporary medical camps, which includes testing, checking, and other things. And that is mostly taken care by TPF doctor itself. So there are a lot of doctors within our TPF community across India. I think more than 600. So we get that help. And third part, which is important, that as we all become more professionals and be more commercial minded, so to balance that out, how do we bring spirituality in life? And I think spirituality is everywhere. I think it is more nowadays. It is people are selling their spirituality. What we do, we don't sell through spirituality. We simplify spirituality for a lot of professionals, so that way it balances out our life, just not focusing only on commercials and focusing on materialistic world. So that's third part we do. And I also want to call out, it is open for this something which we have created, I think a few months back. It is called TPF Paramarsh. Now Paramarsh is essentially anybody needs any second opinion on any of the legal matter, medical matters, let's say any legal issues, so you can get a second opinion. There is a WhatsApp number which people actually can go and type in, so they'll get this 1 to 3 options, and then you can put your questions and documents. People will reply within 48 hours to that. So that's an essentially help for everyone. Everybody can do that. You just need a WhatsApp number. And that's it. I like the session. I have not watched from beginning. Maybe I'll see from recording. I joined after 15 minutes. So thanks, Meenakshi, again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lakshmipatji. Yes, thank you so much, Lakshmipatji. Now we go over to our working committee member, Mr. Sumit Baid. He shall be thanking with a vote of thanks to the speaker of our day. Over to you, Sumitji.
Thank you, Dishaji. So first, I would like to thank our renowned speaker, Miss Meenakshi Anand, for enlightening us with such a knowledge-packed session on organic farming. Thank you, ma'am, for taking out time and enlightening us.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I would also like to acknowledge the presence of our zonal president, Mr. Dineshji Dokha, in this meeting.
Jai Jinendra.
Jai Jinendra,
Jai
sir.
Jinendra, sir.
Thank you for attending today's session, sir. And little bit more adding to what Lakshmipatji said, if anybody is not a member of TPF and want to become a member of TPF, can become a member by visiting www.tpfonline.in. And anybody who is a Therapanthy professional can become a member. I request all of you to stay tuned with TPF for more future events. With this, TPF Bangalore signing off. Thank you, Jai Jinendra.
Thank you so much. Thank you once again, Meenakshi, for your precious time. And for the president of TPF and Mr. Madhuji for attending. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jai Jai.